Happy Wednesday, everyone. I hope everyone's having an amazing week this week and you're getting out to the sun because it's finally decent enough to go outside and do things. Beautiful outside if you guys haven't checked it out. But today we are going to talk about between world wars. This is going to be the period between 1919 and 1939, about 20 years. And we are going to look at what happened between the two world wars that caused the world wars. Not everything we're looking at today did cause the world wars, but it's going to be pretty significant periods in history that we need to look at before we move on. So let's move on. Okay, what happened in Europe after World War One? So Russia was destroyed because of infighting. We just learned about the Russian Revolution, so if you haven't checked out both of those videos, go check them out. But there was a 3-year civil war that led to communism in the Soviet Union. It's not going to be called Russia at this point in time. It's going to be called the USSR. A lot of the European nations were destroyed and bankrupt because of years of fighting in the Western Front and Eastern Front. Um, Everything's going to be happening that's going to make it bad for these European countries. War is really expensive. Everyone thinks that war helps out a lot of economies, and it does help out some economies, but for a lot of people, war is very expensive. The Italians were very angry that after this huge war, they didn't get anything out of it, so they wanted this land along the Adriatic coast, and they didn't get that. The harshness of the Treaty of Versailles also created this huge bitterness in Germany. The Treaty of Versailles made it so that they had to repay most of the war debt in Germany, and this is not going to be a great thing for them. They are already super broke. Their cities are destroyed. A lot of their architecture needs to be redone, and now on top of that, they are going to have to pay for a lot of this war. It's going to lead to a huge amount of bitterness among nations in Europe. What it's going to do, though, is also lead to a new thought process for these Europeans and for people around the world. The horrors of World War I changed people's attitudes about progress. After the war, people started questioning traditional beliefs. So we have this dude here on the screen. His name is Sigmund Freud, and he is going to revolutionize psychology. He's going to believe that the mind consists of a subconscious and a conscious thought process, and it's going to dictate people's behaviors, which is pretty neat. If you guys look at this chart in the middle, it's kind of showing the conscious and preconscious thoughts, and then the unconscious level of thought. Also, they did it as kind of like an iceberg in the water. Pretty neat thought processes. The next dude we're going to talk about is Albert Einstein. He was going to revolutionize physics. So he's going to have these theories about light and relativity and energy, and he's going to actually disprove a lot of stuff that Isaac Newton discovered in the 1600s. Super smart dude. Obviously, you guys have all heard of him. We also have a huge new way of doing art. So remember, before this, we had neoclassical art, which was pretty much just classical art, which showed the human form as it was and did a lot of surrealism or realism, not surrealism. We're going to have people like Pablo Picasso come out. He studied Cubism, so a lot of abstract art that way. Salvador Dali is surrealism, so like dream art. And it is going to go against all of the traditional art forms at this period of time. Next, we're going to talk about the United States during this period between world wars. A lot of good things and a lot of bad things happened between these wars for the United States. But the main part is that the United States is going to come out on top during this. So the US was the wealthiest nation in the world after World War I, and it is going to create, but not join, the League of Nations at this point in time. Why did the US come out on top in this war? They took such a long time to join the war that they profited huge from selling stuff to the Allied nations. Remember, they were only really in this war for about a year, so they didn't have a huge amount of time to lose money from this war. They had a huge amount of time to sell their goods to the rest of the world that was fighting and needed the goods so badly. So a lot of these nations were so desperate that the United States gained a huge amount of control from this. Another nation that did the same thing was Japan. So they also supplied goods to the Allies, and they increased their position as one of the strongest nations in Asia. So while a bunch of European nations struggled to rebuild and repay from this war, some of the world nations actually benefited from World War I. You're always going to have a few nations that are going to benefit from war, but it's going to be few compared to the amount of devastation that this amount of spending and war can actually achieve. World War I in the United States also made it so that we had the Roaring Twenties. We had a huge amount of mass production that is going to lead to new goods. And automobiles are going to become inexpensive and really, really popular. So this crazy lifestyle comes out of this of trying to keep up with your next door neighbor and wanting to have the newest and best things that they possibly could. This is going to lead to a huge dispersion of wealth. So the rich are going to become very, very, very rich. And the middle class is actually going to become poorer and poorer, but still try to keep up with the trends that were going on in the Roaring Twenties. This is going to make it so that they take out a huge, huge amount of loans from the banks, which is totally fine, except they're not able to repay those loans. And if you're not able to repay the loans, the banks can't get back the money that they lent out. And that money that they lent out is actually the money that is being put into the banks by people. What is going to happen is that we're going to have this Great Depression that is going to be triggered in the United States. People are going to start saying, hey, I want all of my money out of the bank. Give me my money. And the banks are going to be like, well, we lent that out and we never got it back. So you can't have your money that you put in the bank. Like, what you going to do about it? You know, we're out of money. We're going out of business. Sorry, your money's gone. The Depression in the United States didn't only affect the citizens of the United States. Other nations saw how well the United States were doing, and they actually invested money personally into the United States as a nation. They were investing money into the United States. When the stock market crashed and unemployment was on the rise and the Depression hit the United States, it also hit all of these other countries really hard. These countries weren't doing well to begin with. They were on the brink of destruction already. And then when the United States did poorly, they did even more poorly. So you can see that the unemployment rates on this chart is nuts. Unemployment rates skyrocket in the 1930s. These unemployment rates and everything that makes it hard for these other countries to repay their debt are going to lead to these crazy, crazy dictators that are going to come in. Germany is the first one we're really going to talk about. Germany was trying to pay off the war debt. They had a government that was like really bad and really unpopular because they signed the Treaty of Versailles. Germany is just going to start straight up printing money because they can't do anything else but print money to try to repay this debt. So what are they going to do? Like, oh, we don't have the money. We can't remake the money. We're trying desperately to even get our people fed. Unemployment in Germany reached 30%. And they are going to be in what's called hyperinflation. Italy is the other one of these countries that's going to have this tyrannical dictator take over because they feel super betrayed by the treaty and they're suffering so much economically also because they really got nothing out of World War I. This is a great picture because it shows just how desperate Germany was to repay the war debt, that they had printed out so much money that it just became a toy for people to play with. This is actual picture of actual money being played with. This isn't a TikTok where someone's trying to seem super rich. This is actually stacks of money because of how bad inflation was in Germany. We're going to have some leaders that are going to step in now for Germany, and they are going to become dictators and try to fix the economy. They're going to do a very good job at fixing the economy, actually. And it's going to lead to a huge amount of support for these tyrannical dictators at this point in time. These dictators are going to play a huge, huge role in World War II, which we'll talk about later this week. So I hope you guys all have a great Wednesday. Be looking for a video tomorrow. The video tomorrow will also explain what we're doing for finals. It's pretty crazy, but we are almost done with the rest of the semester, and I've been getting a lot of questions on what we're going to do for a final. So be looking for that in tomorrow's video. I will see you guys soon, and I hope you all have a great day. Go enjoy the outside. It's so beautiful.